Hi, welcome back to the shop. Thanks for stopping by. This week I'm going to do a prep on this Burl. This is a piece of softwood. A friend of mine brought it here to see if I could make something for him out of it. It was found, it's just driftwood. It was found on a beach. It's got a lot of rocks embedded in it, as you can see. So I'm going to try and take a few of those out, the ones that I can get at. And what I'm going to try is I'm going to take some of my Easywood carbides that I have that are worn out. And I always keep them around anyway. What I don't get out with the screwdriver, because there's just peppered with them, I'll never get them all. I'm going to take some an old carbide, and I'm going to try and rough this in. And if it breaks a carbide or chips a carbide where they're worn out anyway, I really don't care. It's got some rot in here, so it's a little soft here on the top. You can hear it's not very sound. So I'm going to make this the top. I wasn't going to, but when I realized that this is rotten, I'm going to try and turn as much of this out as I can. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to put this on the lathe, see if I can get a shape out of it. I'm going to stabilize it in cactus juice resin, and then we'll cast it in casting resin, some Red Creek Wood Designs resin, and we'll see how it goes. Now, it may not work out. In today's video, we're just going to prep this Burl. Get it rounded up, try and find a way to mount it, because again, this is very soft. So I'm going to see how this goes with the carbides. I'm really curious to see what these little rocks will do to my carbides, and you can learn from what happens to me if you get a Burl like this on your own. So I'm going to try and get this mounted on the lathe safely and see what we can do with it. Alright, so we got her mounted up here between centers. There's still a few tiny little pebbles here stuck in it that I didn't get out, and I'm sure there's some that I've missed, but we're just going to do a little test and see how this old carbide handles. Some of them I can't get out, and some of them probably I can't see. So I'm going to turn it nice and slowly. Going to use my Easywood roughing tool, the Pro Series, or square carbide. We'll see how we make out. So it's surprisingly well balanced. So this piece is running between 800 and 1000 RPM, and it's nice and stable on there. I get a lot of questions from viewers, emails, phone calls about my process for roughing in burls, and so I thought I would just dedicate, I've done a couple other ones like this, dedicate a complete video to real-time roughing in the burl and stopping frequently throughout, so people can see kind of what it looks like when I started and how I mounted it, and what I'm looking for. I want to try and leave some voids and get a shape that I like. This case, of course, I'm having to work around a few extra issues with the pebbles, and there's a big rotten piece in it that you'll see coming up here shortly. By the way, I don't recommend turning stone with a carbide. That's not safe. These were very small, fine stones in the thing, and they would have ruined a high-speed steel tool, so I did them with a carbide. This is the area where most of the little pebbles were. Soft spot. Ooh, that's very soft. Okay, we got a big soft spot right here. Smells like pine. I'm not sure what it is exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna have to take this off because it's just too far gone. Okay, hopefully I can get clear of this. Just going to tighten this up a little bit to make sure that I'm get a good grip. Nice grain in this. And that feels like it kind of stops right here. So I may actually wind up taking this down to here, but it's got some really nice grain, a lot of pitch though. pretty solid wood here. So what I need to do is get down to solid wood so that when I do cast it, and after I stabilize it, that I do have a good tenon here to grab on. After it's stabilized, I think it'll be okay in terms of strength. Gonna have some nice voids for resin. This one isn't so nice because it's not quite deep as I like them, but it can be a nice resin void here. A little bit more and I'll be clear of this rod. That is just loaded with pitch. There, we're good now. So we're clear of the rot. That branches pretty well in there, so I don't think we're gonna have any issue with it. I'll take the Dremel tool and I'll clean the bark out of here before I cast it in resin after it's dry and before I stabilize it. So I don't see any more little stones or no grit left in that. So I'm gonna try to make a cut down with a bowl gouge to see how that comes out. Oh, before I put it away, this is pretty impressive. Actually, it's cutting really well, given the fact that it was worn out before I started, but I'm not sure if you can see, but there's no chunks out of that carbide. Now, I don't necessarily recommend you try and turn things that are stone embedded with anything large stones, for sure, but I just wanted to do a little test and see if this would cut those stones without chipping out, because it was a nice burl. It was a good friend gave it to me, and I wanted to make something for him out of it. So I thought I'd take a chance, and it worked out pretty good so far. Let's see if this gets a little bit cleaner cut now. All right, that's all I'm going to take off the outside. I like the shape, I like the size, I think I like what's going to happen here with the resin. This may be shallow, but I always color my resin very dark, so I hopefully won't be able to see through to the wood. I'll clean this out with the Dremel to get all the bark out of here so it adheres well. And I think this is solid enough now. It's much solider than I thought that it was. I think I will shape a tenon on here and part this off. That way if I do, because I do need to get this out of here, so I do have a way to mount it that way. I think I'll do that next. take this down just a little bit. So what I did when I was cutting this tenon, I make this cut parallel, or perpendicular rather, to the lathe bed. So I'm going right straight in, and that allows me to reference the angle. This chisel is ground to fit the dovetails in my jaws. So as long as I keep this face parallel to the face I just cut there, I get the right angle for my jaws. Now I'm going to part this down a little bit smaller, cut it off by hand. I guess my hand saws are all in a different location, so I'm going to just break that off. There we go. You can see how much pitch is in that. It's even sticky, actually. That tenon's actually too big for this set of jaws, but it's going to be okay for doing what we're doing. Bring the tailstock up. I would have loved to have kept some of this height, but with that rotten seam here, I mean, there's only so much you'd expect cactus juice resin to stabilize. It's only going to get, you can only get so much out of it, and that there was basically void there. There was nothing really to stabilize when you could put your fingers and tear it out. So this is actually much nicer than I thought it was going to be. All right, so this is pretty rough where I just cut it with a dull carbide, but it's all going to be refinished and hollowed out anyhow. So there's what we got. So like I say, I'm going to take the Dremel, I'll clean all this bark out of here. And here, I'm going to probably Dremel this back a little bit so that I can be sure that my resin will get into all these little places. Just going to take a little bit of that out, and I think there probably are a couple little stones left in this, and I don't want them in there when I make my finish cut. So I'm going to clean this out really good. So I'll have a nice piece of resin up into here, and some in here. Possibly there'll be some here if I don't have to turn it off to get things trued up, and I'll clean this bark pocket off. This branch is nicely anchored in here, so I'm not concerned about it coming out, but I will Dremel it back past the thickness of the walls so that there'll be no bark in here. Then it's going to be in the oven probably for 2 or 3 days to get dried down to 0. So I'll weigh it first and get a weight on it, and I'll keep drying it until it stops losing weight. And I'll show you when I put it in the vacuum chamber, and we'll stabilize it. And it's going to be a video for, this will be a few weeks down the road, so I've got a few other projects on the go here that I got to work to, but I need to keep some of these things in the pipe because you just can't do them, start on Monday and have them ready for Saturday. So hopefully you enjoyed that. It's good sometimes to see what people do, how they lay out burls when they're misshapen and very odd like this and have things, major defects in them. So hopefully that helps somebody. At least this is how I do it. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.